Hey everyone, it's Nate's Dad the Gamer. I'm going to try something a little different here and talk about Chivalry 2. Alright, so this has quickly become one of my favorite games to sink a lot of hours into. I think I've put more than 90 hours into the game since it came out. I've always loved sword fighting scenes in movies, think Lord of the Rings, the Star Wars lightsaber duels, all that stuff. Those big battle scenes always caught my eye. They look so cool, right? I always imagined I was Aragorn cutting down the orcs left and right, and I think that's what draws me into Chivalry 2. All too often you're getting swarmed and cut to pieces in the game, but sometimes you have these moments where you feel like you're the master swordsman going through your enemies like you're the star and they're the extras. Let's take a look at the surprisingly deep gameplay of Chivalry, and I'll provide some humble hints and tips from a player who just wants to share what he's learned. So you may have heard some of these already, seen some of these already covered in a better way, but I'm just putting it out there, so enjoy. So the game has some pretty basic swordplay at its core, right? So you've got your slashes, you've got your stabs, you've got your overhead chops, and those are kind of the basic attacking tools that you can see from the different clips I have going on here. Where it gets more interesting is the different tools you have on defense and sort of the other ways you can kind of get around your opponent's defense. If you have riposting, where you can launch any attack just after you block, which gives you a timing advantage. You have countering, where you match your opponent's attack from block and you save your blocking stamina. You can feint an attack and switch to another attack at the last minute to throw off your opponent's counter, the timing. You can kick to break a block. You can throw things. There's really too much to kind of go through in detail, but there are opportunities to be creative, and you can really get into some interesting things with this game.
That's enough.
So that brings me into the hints and tips kind of portion of this video, where it'll be a little more structured. Alright, so I'm going to start out with the first one here, and that's going to be positioning. Now, I may be making a mistake starting here because it's probably the most important tool at your disposal in this game. Like any FPS game, fighting your opponent face to face is super fair, but we don't really want that. If you want to win the fight, look for ways to make it unfair for your opponent. That may sound a little dirty, but it's you're sword fighting, you're fighting for your life, right? So I've got a couple clips here to talk about this. The first kind of positioning I mean is, let's call it strategic positioning. I don't go into too much detail here, but it's just one quick clip. As you can see in this clip, I'm going out of my way to hit the Masons' advance from their left flank. I dive in, and I don't last too long, but it catches them by surprise, and I sneak a kill and a dismember in very quickly. The other important piece of this is what I'll call combat positioning. When you fight face to face, you have to defeat your opponent's defense head on, either through trickery or kicking, etc., and they can do the same to you. You can see that I managed to sidestep a swipe, step back in, and clock the guy. Then, a little later, another guy tried to hit me with the end of his sword, and I stepped aside again. And in the same movement, I hit him with a slash, then a stab, and just missed finishing him after I sidestepped his stab again. I finished this clip sidestepping a huge overhead and just outstriking the last guy. But you can see kind of how important your footwork is. You can create a lot of opportunities to strike just by being mobile. When fighting multiple opponents, combat positioning has an even more critical role. I'll say this, if you found yourself fighting more than one person at once all the time, rethink your strategy. If somehow you're awesome at this consistently, then great job. Otherwise, avoid it at all costs. And back to positioning, the first clip showcases both how to handle multiple opponents well, and how it can go terribly wrong. You can see right here, I've decided to try and stop this guy from being revived. I committed to it, but I should have taken a quick look at the guys running in behind them and expected that they could intervene. But sometimes video game bloodlust takes over, I guess. Anyway, on with the fight. At this point, you can see I have a distracted knight, a vanguard coming in, and another knight on the left that's coming to help. I put the vanguard on my right and take a swing, and I think I caught the vanguard and distracted knight and stopped the revive in one blow. I did get lucky, because as you'll see, the other knight didn't immediately engage me and get a 3-on-1. You can see the vanguard smartly stepped to my right and hit me. However, instead of dodging myself away from the blow to the left, I countered the knight's blow and stepped to the right into the vanguard, putting him between me and the other opponent. I was lucky enough for a dismember, making it much easier, but if they were both good to go, then they would have had to work around each other to outflank me again. Even more luckily, they were now lined up for a stab to take both down at once. I'll reluctantly let this clip finish up, and you can see that another 2v1 starts, but the Vanguard gets in behind me, leaving me no room or time to escape, and they quickly dispatch me. I'll throw in one more clip for multiple opponents and positioning. Again, it's not great because there are some AIs involved, so it's not as satisfying, but what can you do? You can see early on I'm actually trying to avoid being outflanked by hanging close to my team and fighting in a line. But it's a video game, and eventually I get bored with that and move up. I dispatched the first guy, but I'm quickly surrounded by one knight and two AI enemies. It's quick, but you can see my first move is to step right a little, so that keeps the knight in front and the two AI enemies with a longer path to flank me on the left or right. Not that the AI would do that, I'm just trying to treat them like human players for my own safety. I'll mention this a little more later on, but you can see after my riposte I turn right as I swing to hit the knight faster. Turn into your shots, people. He makes a solid block, and then I mistime my counter, as you can see when I get interrupted. Again, it's quick, but watch my move after the hit I take. I step left, and that put the AI right between me and the greater threat of that knight. I killed the AI with the riposte. Now you'll see it right at the end one more time. I'm not sure exactly what the knight did here. It kind of looked like he was taking a swing and canceled it or something, but you will see that I step to my right, putting him in a line with the last AI, and I take him down with a stab, leaving the last AI as easy pickings that some archer takes out for me. This one is kind of another important intangible, I guess, but it's critical to have some kind of idea what's happening on the battlefield around you. For your situational awareness. I'm not trying to make a video just on fighting multiple opponents, but here's another situation where it helps. Let me run the clip and I'll show you what I mean. I don't like archers, so I charged into a risky situation just to tackle one. I'm sure you all have done the same. I got my hit in, but I know there's a knight on my left as I strike, and whatever that other guy was on my right. They interrupted me and I didn't get the archer kill that I so badly wanted. When I whipped around, look where they are, lined up again, just like how you want your 2v1s. This isn't another discussion on positioning. Let's watch instead how I time my attacks. So I managed to get a riposte off the first attack, but at that point the knight is the next threat, so I switched from the first guy and attacked the knight. I think that knight was trying to stab and missed, or I blocked his stab as part of the riposte, not sure, but look at the result. Once I landed that hit, the other guy again became the next threat, so I turned toward him. I got another riposte and took a swing on an arc so I could threaten the first guy, but I kept the knight close because he was next. I got the hit and threw the block up, turning toward the knight right away. So I finished the knight off and turned on the last target, being lucky enough to finish him off before I was overwhelmed. It's important in a fight to be aware of who the current threat is. Always be thinking. So the next bit is what I would consider like an obligatory coverage of the mechanics of the game. If you've done the tutorial, you're familiar with these. So I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but you know, use these mechanics because they do work, right? Make sure you riposte after you block. Make sure you counter their attacks. Turn into your hits. Throw a kick once in a while. Use some feints. Just basically remember to use those mechanics to your advantage and win those fights. Thanks so much for watching. Since you made it this far, I'm ending the video with my I Hate Archers compilation. If archers are driving you nuts when you're trying to use all the tips I've given, just go ahead and enjoy the next 60 seconds or so of this video for some much needed catharsis.
stabbing. Try to really get in there. You want to be sure thou art penetrating him deeply. I shall not.
Clear the plaza of the enemy!